Okay, so we're diving deep today into
Hmm.
something I know a lot of people get really nervous about presenting
Yeah.
in English.
All right.
Whether we're talking about, those high stakes boardroom pitches, or maybe you're defending your thesis, or even just like getting your team on board with a new project,
Yeah,
it can feel super overwhelming.
absolutely.
So today we're going to unpack all of that.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of this, you're going to feel so much more confident about presenting in English.
Yeah. And, one of the things that really struck me from the stuff you sent over is just how much pressure people feel when they're presenting in English.
Right.
And it makes sense, right?
Uh,
Because
uh,
they're not just worried about the content, like, did I get the facts right? Did I make my argument clearly?
yeah, are my slides good?
But you're also thinking about all the language stuff, too.
Right.
Like, am I using the right grammar? Is my pronunciation clear?
People are going to understand me.
Exactly. So it's like this double whammy of pressure.
Totally. And, it's not just about the words themselves either. There's a whole cultural layer to it as well.
Absolutely.
Some of the research you shared about cultural communication styles was fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Because what might come across as, assertive and confident in one culture
Yeah,
could be perceived as like aggressive or even rude in another.
totally.
It's almost like you have to tailor your presentation style to the specific cultural context.
Yeah, you really have to be mindful of who your audience is and what their expectations are.
And then, of course, there's the dreaded Q&A.
Oh, yeah, that's the part everyone's afraid of.
Right, because suddenly you're not in control anymore.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to come at you.
And you're thinking, like, what if I don't understand the question?
Yeah,
Or what if I can't think of the right words to answer it?
right.
It can feel like the ultimate test.
Totally. And it's so interesting because one of the studies you sent over mentioned that like 75% of people
Why?
fear public speaking more than death.
More than death.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
So if you feel nervous about presenting, you're definitely not alone.
Right. Most people feel that way.
Yeah, it's totally normal.
So let's talk about how to deal with those nerves and actually start to feel more confident.
Okay, yeah, let's get into it.
One of the things that kept coming up in the material you shared is the importance of structure.
Structure is key.
Like having a really solid blueprint for your presentation can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. It gives you a roadmap to follow so you don't feel lost or overwhelmed.
Right. And it helps you stay focused and make sure you're hitting all the important points.
Yeah, and that first impression is so crucial.
Oh, yeah, those first 30 seconds.
You gotta hook them right from the start.
Totally. You need a strong hook to grab their attention and make them want to hear more.
Exactly. And one really effective way to do that is to start with a surprising statistic.
Oh, like that one you mentioned about 60% of startups failing
Yes, exactly.
because of poor communication.
That's a powerful number.
Right. It immediately shows people like, hey, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, it establishes the importance of what you're talking about.
Another great hook is a story.
Stories are so engaging.
Right. They make people feel something.
Yeah, and they're easier to remember than just facts and figures.
Exactly like that anecdote you shared about your client who almost lost $1 million deal
Oh, yeah, that was a close one.
just because of a miscommunication.
Right, and it shows how even small communication errors can have huge consequences.
Totally. And, sometimes the simplest hook is the best.
Like what?
A question.
Oh, yeah, a question.
Like just ask the audience something that gets them thinking.
Yeah. Like, how many of you have ever had a communication breakdown at work
Exactly.
that immediately gets people involved and makes them relate to the topic?
Okay, so you've hooked them. What's next?
Well, then you move into the main body of your presentation.
Right.
And here's where clarity is so important.
Yeah, you got to keep it concise
Absolutely. Don't try to cram in too much information.
because people will just get lost.
Exactly. And one really helpful principle here is the rule of three.
The rule of three.
Yeah, it's all about focusing on just 3 key points.
Oh, I like that.
It makes your presentation easier to follow and remember.
Makes sense. And it forces you to really prioritize what's most important.
Yeah. What are the 3 things you absolutely want your audience to take away?
And when you're presenting those key points, visuals can be super helpful,
Oh, yeah, visuals are key.
especially if you're dealing with complex information.
Right. A good image or chart can convey so much more than a bunch of text.
Totally. And nobody wants to read a wall of text on a slide.
No, it's death by PowerPoint.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
use images, graphs, charts, anything that makes your presentation more visually engaging.
And remember, your slides should support your words, not replace them.
Right. They're just there to enhance what you're saying.
And don't forget about transitions.
Transitions.
Yeah, those little words and phrases that connect your ideas.
Oh, right.
Like now that we've talked about X, let's move on to Y.
Yeah. Or building on that point, let me share another example.
Those transitions help your audience follow your logic and see how everything fits together.
They're like signposts that guide people through your presentation.
Exactly. They make it a smoother, more enjoyable experience.
Okay, so you've grabbed their attention with your hook. You've delivered your 3 key points.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for the close.
Yeah, the grand finale.
You want to leave them with a lasting impression.
And make sure they remember what you said.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some good ways to close a presentation?
Well, one really effective technique is a call to action.
A call to action?
Yeah, tell people what you want them to do with the information you've shared.
Oh, right.
Like challenge them to try a new strategy or implement a new idea.
It gives them something concrete to take away.
Exactly, and it makes your presentation more impactful.
Another good option is to end with a quote,
Oh yeah, quotes can be really powerful.
especially if it's from someone well-known or respected.
Right, it adds a sense of authority and wisdom to your message.
Like maybe a quote from Maya Angelou or Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, those are good ones.
And one technique I really like is to circle back to your opening hook.
Oh yeah, that's a nice way to bring it full circle.
Right, so if you started with a statistic, you can refer back to it and say something like, now that you've heard all this, you can see why that statistic is so important.
Exactly. It reinforces your main point and creates a sense of closure.
And here's a pro tip that came up a few times in the stuff you sent.
Okay, what is it?
Record yourself practicing your presentation.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It might feel awkward at first, but it's so helpful to see yourself the way your audience will see you.
Yeah, you can catch things you might not notice otherwise.
Like, are you speaking too fast or too slow? Are you making enough eye contact? Are you using too many filler words?
Right, it's all about self-awareness.
And the more aware you are of your habits, the better you can control them.
Exactly. So recording yourself is a great way to identify areas for improvement.
Okay, so we've talked about structuring your content, but what about your body language?
Oh yeah, body language is huge.
It can make or break your presentation.
Totally, because even if you have amazing content, if your body language is saying, I'm nervous or I don't believe in what I'm saying.
Yeah, people will buy it.
Exactly. So you got to project confidence and authority.
So how do we do that?
Well, one technique that came up a lot in the material you sent is the power pose.
The power pose.
Yeah, have you heard of it?
I think so.
It's basically standing in a posture that makes you feel powerful.
Like hands on your hips.
Yeah, or arms raised in the air, like you just won a race.
Okay.
The idea is that holding this pose for a few minutes before your presentation can actually change your hormone levels and make you feel more confident.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So it's like tricking your brain into feeling more confident.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I'm going to try that. And another important thing is eye contact.
Right.
You want to make eye contact with different people in the audience.
Yeah, not just stare at one person.
Right, spread it around.
Okay.
But don't just flit your eyes around the room either. Try to hold eye contact with each person for a few seconds.
Okay, like 3 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
It shows that you're engaged and you care about connecting with them.
And what about gestures?
Well, open palms are generally seen as more trustworthy and welcoming.
Okay.
So try to use gestures that are open and expansive,
Okay, no
Got it.
crossed arms.
right? That can make you look closed off or defensive.
And what about things to avoid?
Okay, well, one big one is pacing.
Pacing. Yeah.
Don't pace back and forth like a caged tiger,
Hey, it's distracting.
and it makes you look nervous.
And what about like gripping the podium?
Yeah, if you're holding on for dear life,
Right.
it makes you look tense and uncomfortable.
So try to relax your grip
Yeah, maybe even step away from the podium occasionally.
to like move around a bit.
Yeah, it makes you more dynamic.
Okay. And one thing I've definitely noticed people doing
What's that?
is turning their back to the audience
Oh, yeah.
to read from the screen.
Right, that's a big no-no.
Because you lose that connection with the audience.
Exactly. They feel like you're talking to the slides instead of to them.
So even if you need to glance at the screen, try to keep your body facing the audience.
Yeah, make them feel like you're speaking directly to them.
And it's also important to remember that body language isn't universal.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
What might be considered confident in one culture
Yeah,
could be seen as something else in another culture.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you really have to be aware of your audience's cultural background.
Right. And adjust your body language accordingly.
It's all about being culturally sensitive.
Okay, so we've covered structure. We've covered body language. Now let's talk about the Q&A.
The moment of truth.
Right. For a lot of people, this is the scariest part.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be.
Because with the right strategies, you can actually handle the Q&A like a pro.
Absolutely. It's all about preparation and confidence.
So what if someone asks a question and you don't understand it?
Well, first of all, don't panic.
Right.
It's perfectly okay to ask for clarification.
Yeah, just say something like,
Mm-hmm.
could you rephrase that, please?
Exactly, or I'm not sure I understood your question. Can you say it again?
And if you need more help understanding, you can try to narrow it down
Ah.
by saying something like, just to
Mm.
clarify, are you asking about X or Y?
Yeah, that gives them a chance to rephrase in a way that makes more sense to you.
What if you get a question and you just don't know the answer?
Well, in that case, honesty is the best policy.
You're right.
Don't try to make something up.
Yeah.
It's much better to say, that's a great question. I don't have the answer right now, but I'll be happy to look into it and get back to you.
Exactly. That shows that you're taking their question seriously.
Yeah, and it's more credible than trying to bluff your way through it.
And, sometimes you can use a question as an opportunity to engage the audience.
Like how?
You can say something like, that's an interesting point. I'd love to hear what others think about this.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It takes the pressure off you,
Yeah,
and it gets people talking.
creates a more interactive experience.
Exactly. And if you need a moment to think,
Yeah.
a simple trick is to repeat the question back to the person who asked it.
Oh, yeah, that buys you some time.
Right. So if someone asks, how does this approach scale to larger organizations?
Mm-hmm.
You can say, so you're asking about the scalability of this approach in larger organizations.
Exactly. It shows that you're listening.
And it gives you a few seconds to gather your thoughts.
And here's a tip I learned from one of your articles.
Okay.
If you're anticipating some tough questions,
Yeah.
prepare a few backup slides.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, with extra information or data.
So if you get a question that you're not quite sure how to answer,
Mm-hmm.
you can say, that's a great point, and it actually relates to something I have on this slide.
Exactly. It makes you look super prepared.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different strategies,
We have.
but the key to really mastering presentation skills is practice,
Absolutely. Practice makes perfect.
or at least it makes you a lot less nervous.
Yeah, the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll feel.
All right, so let's talk about some specific practice techniques.
Okay, what do you have?
Well, one that I really like is the mirror test.
The mirror test.
Yeah, just practice your presentation in front of a mirror.
Okay.
It might feel silly at first,
Yeah.
but it helps you see how you come across to others.
You can check your posture, your facial expressions, your gestures.
Exactly. And you can make adjustments as needed.
It's like having a free coach.
Another fun one is the dog test.
The dog test.
Yeah, try explaining your presentation to your dog
My dog.
or your cat or even a houseplant.
Okay.
The idea is that it forces you to simplify your language.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can explain it to a dog, you can explain it to anyone.
That's a good point.
And if your dog looks confused,
Yeah.
you probably need to work on your explanation.
Make it simpler.
Exactly. And another good practice exercise is the 1-minute challenge.
The 1-minute challenge.
Yeah, try to summarize your entire presentation in 60 seconds.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's a great way to distill your message down to its essence.
It forces you to focus on the most important points.
Exactly. And if you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be much better prepared to deliver a clear and concise presentation.
And, if you're really serious about improving your presentation skills,
Yeah.
consider joining Toastmasters.
Oh, yeah. Toastmasters is great.
It's a global organization dedicated to public speaking.
Right. And they have clubs all over the world.
Yeah, so you can find one near you.
And it's a really supportive environment to practice and get feedback
Yeah, everyone's there for the same reason.
to improve their speaking skills.
Exactly.
Okay, so that was a lot of information,
It was.
but hopefully you found it helpful.
I hope so.
Now, here's your listener challenge for this week.
Okay, I'm ready.
First, pick any topic you like.
Any topic.
Seriously, it could be anything.
Okay.
Your favorite movie, a recent news story, your dream vacation.
Okay, got it.
Second, prepare a 2-minute presentation on that topic.
2 minutes.
And here's the key, no notes allowed.
No notes.
This will force you to really internalize the material.
Yeah.
And third, deliver your presentation to someone.
Okay.
It could be a friend, a family member, a coworker, anyone who's willing to listen.
Got it.
And after you're done, ask them for one specific piece of feedback.
Okay.
Like, was my opening hook engaging? Did I make eye contact? Did I speak clearly?
Right. Focus on one thing at a time.
Exactly. And we'd love to hear how it goes.
Yeah. Definitely share your experiences.
You can use the hashtag #ConfidentSpeaker on social media.
And connect with other people who are working on their presentation skills.
But one last thing.
Yeah,
Remember that the audience wants you to succeed.
that's true.
They're not there to judge you.
No, they want to hear what you have to say.
And your accent is not a barrier.
No, It's part of what makes you unique.
That's part of your story.
And your perspective is valuable.
So embrace who you are.
Yeah.
And share your ideas with confidence.
And remember that quote from Mark Twain?
Oh, yeah. What was it?
There are two types of speakers, those who are nervous and those who are liars.
So if you're feeling nervous,
Yeah,
it just means you're human.
it means you care.
Okay, so that's it for this deep dive.
That was a good one.
Next time, we'll be talking about how to write persuasive emails in English.
Ooh, that's a good topic.
Emails that actually get replies.
Yeah, we all need help with that.
And we're also brainstorming some bonus segments.
Oh, cool. Like what?
Maybe an analysis of some famous TED Talks.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Or some tips from a speech therapist on vocal projection.
That would be really helpful.
And maybe even some funny stories from listeners about their worst presentation fails.
Oh, yeah, that would be entertaining.
So stay tuned for all of that.
Looking forward to it.
And in the meantime,
Yeah.
keep practicing your English and keep presenting your ideas.
The world needs to hear what you have to say.
That's right.
So go out there and make your voice heard.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me.
It was my pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.